I'm Jeremy Gaffney. I'm executive producer, which means I do as little as possible, but I take credit for everything else that anyone on the team does. Yeah, it's accurate. So what's new? Right now, we have in-game about 250 hours of leveling content. We have a few thousand hours effectively of Elder Game content, which is much more replayable. We expect leveling content gets consumed, and the Elder Game content is built to be dynamic and update itself. So what we're showing at Gamescom for the first time is dungeon gameplay, because we have this really cool, sort of fast action combat. We use telegraphs to explain what monsters are doing, what players are doing, and then we show what that looks like in group gameplay. And we are a fan of dungeons that are hard. We don't like sort of easy, wimpy dungeons. We like dungeons that are a challenge because we put the best rewards on the things that are the hardest, and so the harder it is, the better rewards we can put there. Telegraphs are it's about making action combat that doesn't suck. A couple of games have done their own takes on action combat. For us, right at level 1, we introduced the concept of painting on the ground what's going on. This is for your abilities. We're showing you, hey, dummy, your ability goes in this spot. That's helpful. But at higher levels, this sort of base precept goes from being the simple, here we're showing you what's happening, into communicating with your group. So I'm putting down a big healing well over here, or I'm going to put a fire pit in this area, and then everyone else positions to be able to kick the monsters into the fire pit. So we can do it with shadow puppets. We can actually show some of this on screen too, so maybe we'll swing over and show some stuff during this as well. This makes a very interesting, complex, high-level gameplay, and so if you see some of the videos and things we're releasing here, you'll see some really quite complex fights, but because there's context to them, because they're made clear by the telegraphs on the ground, we can get away with putting in even more gameplay. And then we reward you. The more skilled you fight, the more rewards you get. So noobs can get through it, because we want to train them to be like hardcore elitists over time, but the hardcore elitists coming into the game need fun stuff to do too. Chua are psychopathic hamsters from hell. They basically are genius level IQ with moron level morals, and so a lot of their quests are really fun because they tend to be pranking things or causing disruption or just causing chaos. The Mordash are sort of more dark and brooding. They're a race that was they were sort of like elves who were very highfalutin with alchemy and magic, but some of that went horribly wrong. They made themselves immortal, but in the process made themselves start to decay and disease and go crazy. And so they have basically inflicted a zombie apocalypse on their race as a whole. And so they're tied between being brilliant and being mad, where they're sort of torn between these two areas where they're completely feral and destructive when they go bonkers, but on the other hand they're the most elite and the most aristocratic when they're sane. And so their culture is quite a mix, and so their quests reflect all of this as well. There's elements of it that any player can do. Right now we let players retool items in the game to sort of custom fine-tune them at a deep level. But if you're creating, if you're a trade skiller, you're devoted to trade skilling, there's quite a lot of depth to it. You level up in sort of a talent tree over time where you can specialize and you can choose to be really good at one aspect of weapon crafting or armor crafting or another. There's rare recipes in the world to find and unlock. You can find different, basically, there's two fundamentally different ways that you can craft. Some's called coordinate crafting, where you get a base recipe, but then you need to search out for the particular way that the other recipes work by finding different combination of ingredients. The other is recipe-based, where you get the recipes, but you need to unlock them and find them in different ways throughout the world. And the way you level is through, it's kind of achievement-based, depending on which achievements you unlock by how many things of a different kind you make or which crafting quests you do. You specialize throughout the talent tree about how you get better at certain aspects of it. So it's actually quite a fun system. We'll do a full reveal of it. We don't like revealing stuff until really we've had a couple iteration passes, because we think stuff is awesome, but if fans go in and they don't like it, we rip it out and we redo it. Trade skilling, I think, has gotten to be quite fun, and so we're polishing up interfaces for it, and we'll probably do a full reveal, more of the details of it coming up, I guess, within the next few months. But we'll see. Players tell us what works and what doesn't in the beta, so. Sure, let me talk about the parts that suck, and then let me talk about the parts that don't suck. Because in general what we do is trim out the suck bits and we add to the don't suck bits. I would argue that what people have, people want a level of player choice. And in the system as we had it, a lot was dominantly determined by what your stats were. And part of your stats are player chosen. You know, your race influences it and your class influences it, but a lot of it's influenced by gear. And so I would argue, let's talk philosophy for a second. I would argue there's a dichotomy, there's a barrier, there's a split between, you know, what you consider to be part of yourself, part of your character, and what is your stuff. And games over time have been biased towards stuff. You know, you aren't, you know, your character's at some kind of awesome, but a lot of your awesomeness is based on your gear. And it's hard to have an attachment to gear. You know, you as a human being, you'd like to think that it's the skills you learn that make you cool, and like how your wit and your charm and all this, and not the fact that you own a Lamborghini makes you more awesome than the guy next to you. But what do most MMOs do? They incent, it's all about your Lamborghini and very little about you. So that's a little philosophical, but let's bring it back to reality. So we had attributes that basically your attributes triggered cool, talent-like, or interesting rewards, but it was mostly through your gear, and this made for a very fun min-max game. If I can get up this threshold, woo, awesome stuff happens. That felt very good and very powerful. But you didn't have enough, but you were at the mercy of what gear dropped, or the mercy of what, you know, you couldn't say, I want to be better at casting fireballs. You more had to get your intelligence level up to a level where it improved your fireballs. So we're adding a lot more player choice back in, you know, and this is a natural iteration of the system, more than it's we're ripping things out entirely or doing things from whole cloth. But it emphasizes the kind of things why we do this stuff in the beta and tune it and tweak it before we actually go out. Player feedback truly matters to us. You know, we're not about saying, oh yeah, we want to listen, and then no, screw it, we're just doing the same thing. So so I neither want to, you know, it doesn't embarrass us when we goof up a system or we're like, we can improve this by extending it in this way. That's the process. It's how we like improving the game. Sure, what we love about that kind of model is it's about options. You know, we say play how you want to play in the game, and it's a little too cute or marketing to say, you know, pay how you want to pay. But that's kind of the goal. If you like a sub game, you like the big updates that come with it, you like the, you know, reinvestment that happens in, you know, make the game better, awesome, we have a sub model. If you hate subs, though, we provide cred, which means if you want to never pay a sub, awesome. Go earn your cred in the game, which means get gold pieces, trade the gold pieces to other players. That's it. You can just, by trading gold pieces, be able to do this just by playing the game. And so it doesn't make everybody happy, but there's two classes of people it makes happy, you know, for sure, which is players who want to have an option to never pay a sub. It makes players happy to have an option to have these things to trade on the auction house for more gold pieces, and it really pisses off gold farmers. And anything we can do that makes multiple kinds of players happy, it makes us happy because, you know, we like money. It's kind of why we're in business. And it pisses off gold farmers. That is a big win in my book. Is, you know, is exactly the kind of thing that we love doing. So we'll probably add more options over time, but we want to keep it as simple as possible about, you know, what the options are, because we think that we really like the fact that we're giving different ways of playing the game, but we don't want to confuse people. We don't want people, you know, worried about, oh, when are they going to have to pay again in a different fashion.
What kind of end-game content can we expect from WildStat? How much of that end-game is actually in a relatively finished form?
So and those are a good pair of questions, because it's very easy to be like, we have everything. But what we actually can prove to us is very much more the important part. Because we need to earn players' respect. You know, that's that is a necessary part of the process. So endgame content, 3 kinds of players that we try to target. Number 1, do you have no friends and you want to play alone? Awesome, that's like 60% of people. So we have, in the game now, we have a couple of public event areas where different dynamic public events spawn up and spawn down and cycle in the game. So there's a new area with new different quests to do solo. We have story dungeons. We added the games where we now add a new one. We should be on track to about 1 a month, but we'll see what the timing looks like, you know, as we get them out. Those happen, they extend the story of the game. They're made for solo players, new content to consume every month. People love updates, and updates are a lot of what support solo players. Or, do you hate your friends? Well, awesome. PvP, of course. We have war plots all about 40v40, more or lesser scale. Build a town, fight the towns against each other, capture raid bosses, send the raid bosses out to go attack each other. We have it in development now, but we just did a 80-player version of it on last Friday, where I got to see raid bosses stomping around killing players. So I'm sure we'll do a big reveal of it, because it's gotten to be pretty fun and pretty polished, I'd argue. So it's definitely moving along. It's getting there. We also, of course, do arenas with their own little dynamic elements, but this can be like an 80-hour-long question if I answer it fully. And lastly, for raids and for large scale, you have friends and you want to play with them cooperatively. We have raids in the game. You'll see some of them teased in the dungeon video we do at the end. Those are all different wings of a huge-ass raid called the Datascape. 40-man raid. The combats are individually quite fun in it, including everything from ones that split up all players to different paths in different areas where there's jump puzzles being done simultaneously as big towers are being laid down for big fights. There's lots of cool dynamics within these raids, and they're hard as hell. We're making them so that it is truly a challenge. And then beyond being challenged to complete, period, one of the things that the few things we're doing even over the next few months is adding in a system where you can compete from server to server or even worldwide to get the fastest or the first versions of these things, and then attach big loot to it, so that if you can get through this configuration of the raid this week, it's a shared random configuration of the raid and the challenges within it and the bosses within it and the random elements within it. That's shared across every guild, and everybody's competing on a weekly basis to be the best. And if you're the best, legendary items are there not just for completing it, but are also for doing it better than anyone else. And that's going to be truly compelling, I think. But we'll show that. That's actually that system is in development right now, so it'll be coming actually pretty soon. Yeah, so for us, open beta means lifting the NDA. Why do we have an NDA? We seem like such an open company. We talk about all this stuff. Why do we have everything locked under NDA? It's actually really simple. We like being able to test a number of systems and see which ones work and don't work. And if there's no NDA, then people are like, I hate your trade skill system. I will never play. Your trade skill system sucks. When, no, we have 3 or 4 in development, and we're going to pick the one that works best. We would like you to hate our game or not hate our game based on the final things we locked down pre-launch, as opposed to the thing we tested, well in advance. So open beta for us will happen maybe like a month or 2 before launch, where we'll lift the NDAs fully, let everybody talk about it. We'll still be tweaking systems, but everything will be in a pretty lockdown state. Really big event that's happening for us fairly soon is in October. We'll be entering into the second phase of the beta, where we've taken all the feedback from our first CBT 1s through 4. Some of those changes are pretty sweeping changes to itemization and how the quest system works and how trade skills work, a bunch of those things, and we'll be going into the second phase of CBT after making all those kind of big sweeping changes. So that's exciting for us to see what sort of is next in store, and then get feedback on that before we do go in open beta and do the final stage of launching the game.
Jeremy, thank you very much.
Hey, great questions. Good talking to you.